Right, well, we've been one day into the Pyrenees, we've gone to France. Now we're turning our back on France and going back into Spain for the rest of the day. The Pla de Beret, which is an ore category climb, a special category climb. The stepping stones are the Col d'Aspan, the Col de Peyresourde, the Col de Portillon. It's the Portillon which brings us back into Spain as we then continue up the ore category climb to the finish of the Pla de Beret. There they are, 3 first category climbs, 1 special category. I can tell you a breakaway establishing very early on. They reached the Aspan after 2 very fast hours of racing. 9 leaders led over the top by Johan Horrocks. 8 minutes 25 the gap ahead of the main field, and these 9 riders riding pretty consistently on the climb, while the peloton not overdoing it, riding as a big bunch, and only the absolute non-climbers placed in any sort of difficulty. So that was a good ride then for Johan Horrocks. 16 points for him, the Milanese rider. Jouffre riding very well this tour, he was second. Oza and Francisco Lara. So that was the situation on the Aspan. Then we went down the Aspan, we've gone up the Peyresourde. We can now take the action here on the Peyresourde. The gap, Bob, 8:25, it's just about the same. It went out to over 10 minutes, but it's come back now to about the same they had over the top of the Aspan. As we look here at the top of the Col de Peyresourde, taking us to 71 kilometers from the finish. The 9 riders in the lead, just going over the top here. Johan Horrocks is taking his second big win of the day. He won the Col d'Aspan, so he's off in search of that King of the Mountains jersey. And as they begin the descent, we now will await the arrival of the main field. But Paul, Horrocks has got 2 now. He's not far off that race lead.
Well, he certainly hasn't. He's in fact moved himself up to a 55-point total. The leader in that King of the Mountains classification right now is still Félix Cárdenas, which is why we're seeing the team of La Barca coming to the front and set the tempo. This is the second group. That's Richard Virenque dancing out of the pedals. He's used to dancing around through the Pyrenees. We've seen him very many times during the Tour de France ride so well. That looked like Hincapie as well in this group. This is the second group compared to the main field. The main field are right in front with all of the major stars. There's Erik Zabel looking fairly comfortable in what we would call the gruppetto. But the thing that always amazes me, Bob, about Erik Zabel is he always climbs better than any of the other sprinters.
The other sprinters are way down the road now. This group here will probably be able to reintegrate into the front after they go over the top of this climb, the Peyresourde. Just trying to survive to make it in the time limit, so Erik Zabel probably won't have another chance at a stage until Monday when we get out of the mountains. 3 very, very hard days in the Pyrenees.
Very fast tempo. There's the clock still running. Remember, over the top has gone Johan Horrocks. 2 big wins for him today, and he's still got 2 more chances to go because this is a healthy time gap. As we watch the riders go up, I'll quickly give you the full 9 riders in that breakaway. We haven't done that yet. Joseph Jouffre, Relax, Unai Echeverria, Euskaltel, Johan Horrocks, MSS, Francisco Lara from Team Bianchi, Joaquim Rodriguez of Once, Dennis Lungi of Alessio, Eladio Jimenez of Ernesto with his teammate Aitor Osa. Osa, by the way, best placed at 16 minutes 32 seconds, and Constantino Zabaya of Kelmate. They are the leaders. They're over the top, and now we're all on the way down to Luchon. We're on the final kilometers now of the climb of the Col du Portillon, and under pressure it's Leonardo Piepoli and Osa who are now attacking on the front and again hurting the peloton. We're not getting too many pictures of the breakaway, but we still have 9 riders as far as we know intact, and they surely now in the last 1.5 kilometers of this climb.
Severe in difficulty.
Oh, this is a shame because he's really struggled around this tour. He came in with very few training kilometers because of injury all year, and then he had the bad luck to crash early on. And now, Bob, he's really struggling. He shows his class by just staying with these boys as long as possible, though.
He's just a few kilometers from the top of this climb, and if he can stay in contact, he can get back on the descent. He's a great pro. He's had some of the high hopes of Spain on his shoulders for a couple of seasons now since he won the white jersey as best young rider in the Tour de France a couple of years ago. Here's a second moto down the road that looks like it might be Aitor Gonzalez starting to find his legs now. He's taken over from Leonardo Piepoli at the front of the lead group. There's Luis Perez. Michael Rasmussen is having a great Vuelta.
Certainly is.
See, there's the king of the mountain, Félix Cárdenas, there coming through, and that might be Valverde, the Kelme rider, that's in 8th place overall. And this is a gap right now. We'll see if it looks like Roberto Heras is coming across, but we don't see any of there's There's De Galdiano trying to make the juncture there, but the pace is on right now at the top of the Portillon. Very tough tempo. Heras taking a quick look back, perhaps looking for Beltran, perhaps looking for Isidro Nozal, the leader so far in the golden jersey, and we haven't seen him in the front. Big tempo now coming from Gonzalez and Luis Perez. Aitor Gonzalez still on the front. It's going to be very hard to follow him if he starts to find his form, and he is not out of this Vuelta a España by any stretch of the imagination. We have a long 53-kilometer flat time trial coming up in a week's time, and if he can stay close in the mountains, he's in the top 10 on GC, he could start to really close that gap, and he's starting to find his legs now. This is a good sign that Aitor Gonzalez is back on form in the Vuelta a España. It could not have come at a better time.
4 minutes is gap over Isidro Nozal, but Nozal under pressure today, and because the gap is being forced here and the golden jersey caught off guard. To gain good time over him, they're going to have to try an attack on this climb, because once down here we could drop down to Aubert and then we climb up towards the finish. This is the time to go.
It certainly is. It's a turn up for the books for Aitor Gonzalez, who certainly did not look like the man he was last year in the Vuelta a España, but that was a seriously good turn on the front. But look at this, Rasmussen has decided he wants to climb higher than his 9th place in the overall classification. This is a man who started his career as a mountain biker, and look at the damage it's doing at the back end of the group.
Well, I'm just wondering where on earth Beltran has gone here, because he is the man he's got to come across in this group, possibly with Heras. Here comes the Banesto tandem as well. They started the trouble. There's little Heras bridging the gap. Is that Beltran just behind him?
I think I saw Beltran actually at the back of the tail of this very long group of riders. He's been put under pressure today. He had a very good day yesterday. There's the leader of the King of the Mountains, Félix Cárdenas. But right now, the race is really starting to blow to pieces. This is the top of the climb right now for the leaders.
Well, that was a quick switch. First time we've seen them on this climb, and they've gone over the top. We've cut to them just too late to see exactly who was causing first place. That's Unai Echeverria there doing a David Echeverria and stretching out his muscles as they start down. But I think Horich was not too far away from being first again there. So the clock will start as they start the climb. But I think the direction quite right here with the cameras watching the action amongst the race leaders on this climb. There is Heras off to the right. He's hooked up. Beltran seems to be in one of those go well one day, not so well the next day moods at the moment.
Well, you know, when you put the pressure on somebody's shoulders, as maybe the team manager did yesterday, Johan Brunel, saying that now I feel Beltran can win the Tour, I think he may well have just popped a little bit. There's also another rumour emanating in Spain right now that Once might have discovered a new sponsor for next year as well, and it's good to see that the two big teams might stay around. And this man is also, I think, probably going to take a lot of the pressure off the team Rabobank, who we've heard an awful lot in the press about the fact that the sponsor has not really been very happy with the performances. It's amazing in the sport of professional side, if you put a great performance in towards the end of the season, it can really wipe the slate clean and people forget all the bad times that happened earlier in the year.
We're looking at the leaders now. They've just more or less completed the descent of the Col de Portillon, and soon after they came off onto the flatter roads and attacked by Johan Horich, the rider who was first over the top, and it's caused quite a little bit of dismay in the breakaway because he split the leaders at the minute. That's the situation after the climb. Cárdenas still the King of the Mountains leader, but Horich now up into second place. He needs 5 points if he can stay away to the finish today, and he'll be the new leader there. Tough call, I think, because we've still got 30-odd kilometres to go. And there, for the first time for a long time today, Paul, we can see the race leader.
Isidro Nozal, the revelation yesterday, saved the race for Team Once, and he's still the leader of this bike race in the overall classification. They obviously have decided to have a bit of a truce before they get to the final climb of the day, because everybody's just sitting around looking to see what's going on. But I think, Bob, we are going to have a pretty serious battle, because Isidro Nozal and Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano were put under pressure on that last climb.
They both look to be in a lot of trouble on that last climb of the Portillon, and that doesn't bode well for their chances on a very difficult climb to the finish of this bike race. Roberto Heras, for himself, didn't have any trouble matching the accelerations of Michael Rasmussen, and you've got to take our hats off to this man. He is having a great Vuelta a España. He had no trouble at all dropping everybody in the front of the bike race in the main group. They've come together a little bit. Some of the stragglers that were trying to stay in the front caught on the descent, and now there's been, like you said, a bit of a truce. They're just about 3.5 minutes behind the breakaway, which is at this point is starting to break up a little bit. Osa, Jufre, and Rodriguez and Orach were in the front there, but I don't think this is the first category climb of the Portillon, the results of the King of the Mountain.
And 16 points for Horach, which means he's just 5 short now of taking the overall lead, but he's got to get points on the last climb of the day. Also there, we're looking at the whole composition of the first 9 riders. They went over the top, 10th place rather, went to Rasmussen at just over 3 minutes in the front half of the peloton, which has seemed to have called a truce, as Paul has said. It's time out before they have what we think will be one big showdown today. I think the riders have ridden a very sensible race because they know the big mountains tomorrow are going to hurt into Andorra, and today it's become a very internal battle. The best placed rider in the league group is Aitor Osa at just over 16.5 minutes, and it's unlikely they'll get that now by the finishing line. So the boys here are going to have an in battle, and may the best man take the leader's golden jersey at the finish. Let me quickly update you at the front, because one rider was dropped from the front, Francisco Lara from the Team Bianchi. He's been picked up now by Martinez and Veronk, but they're not closing in on the remaining 8 leaders. So I think they will fight out the finish today, and the in battle continues here.
I'm sure we'll have a battle in this group, because certainly it might not be the most difficult climb of the Vuelta a España, but every opportunity of an uphill finish is an opportunity that riders like Roberto Heras and Manuel Beltran have to take. Good move by Sastre. He actually lost a bit of time yesterday on the run-up towards the finish, but he's the first man to start the aggression here in the group that we're looking at the moment, the group of Isidro Nozal and Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano, the Once leaders.
Now, as we look down here at a very select group, a lot did come back, of course, on the descent of the Col de Portillon, and one of those was Gonzalez de Galdeano. But they're all in there now, trying to save a little bit of energy for the third heavy day in the Pyrenees tomorrow, and probably the hardest of all 3 days. Bob, the breakaway I don't think is going to get pulled back now. So for the benefit of those people who want to go out, tell us who's going to win.
You thought it might be Zavalla.
I think Zavalla, he deserves a success, put
absolutely.
It that way. Yeah.
I'm going to have to go with you, Phil, on this
Oh,
one.
no. That's Zavalla's got no chance now.
The Benesto riders look very strong as well.
From a group of 8 riders who are left, it's difficult to pick a man because they've all been through all kinds of purgatory this afternoon. They're almost certainly going to survive, because in the main field, what Once will try and do is just nullify any attacks to their 2 leaders, Gonzalez de Galdeano and of course Isidro Nozal, who hopes he's going to keep hold of the overall lead for another day. The time gap to the leaders right now, 6.5 minutes, so they're a long way off, with around about 13 kilometers to go to the finishing line.
Well, that's the sprint point there down at Saladou, where the sprint was won by Echeverria in the breakaway from Jufre and Jimenez. They're not sprints which really attract any great deal, because there's no time bonuses there. That's the 13k point just there, but we're going back up here to 10k now for the leaders, so that's given us a pretty accurate gap between the leaders and that main chasing bunch. In between, we've got Veronk, Martinez and Francesco Lara, who seems to have found his second win, because he's got into them pretty easily, but they're going to be caught in no man's land now. This is a perfect day for the golden jersey. He's got a 55-second buffer, and here's Lara now. It looks as though Lara is beginning to sag a little bit now with the relentless tempo of the other 2. As Paul has said, this isn't one of the outstanding climbs. I think, what is it, the 3rd time, Paul, that we've finished a stage up here?
The 3rd time that we've been here, and I'll tell you one thing, the weather conditions are a lot better than they were when the race came here back in 1991. Because on that occasion it was actually cancelled. But now you can see the attacks are starting to come thick and fast.
Echeverria there, the winner a few days ago now, has certainly cracked there. That is a surprise. And it looks as though we shouldn't have mentioned Constantino Zabaya, Bob, because he's also cracking here under the strain. This is Eladio Jimenez.
There's Eladio Jimenez from the Benesto team. 2 riders on that team in the breakaway. Eladio Jimenez as well as Aitor Gonzalez. Yep. Zabaya is fighting back with Denny Lungi on his wheel, but right back up here in the front, if we can get back up to the leaders, we can see who's making the hard tempo. There's Verenk and Martinez. They're a long ways down the mountain, probably a couple of kilometers behind the riders at the front of the bike race. The mountain does level out at the top, so we might have a totally different composition of contenders once we get over the steep slopes in the middle section of the climb. And it'd be like a guy like Denny Lungi, if he can limit his damages and stay close to the climbers on this big mountain, he would have a very good chance to win the sprint, as it does flatten out 2 or 3 kilometers before the finish line.
Well, that's Longy nearest. And just coming off our picture there is Horac rather, and I think that he is... well, he's obviously going to be the new leader of the King of the Mountains now, Paul, wherever he finishes in this breakaway, but I think he might still look at a stage win too.
Well, he'll look at that as long as he finishes inside the top 8, and right now he's looking at a top 4 position. He will be the new King of the Mountains leader tonight. But looking at the race composition, the breakaway, which is slimming down to 4 riders, is almost 5 minutes ahead of Richard Virenque. There will be an acceleration in that group there, and my favourite, Denny Lungi, has just been popped off the back there by another acceleration from, in fact, Jon Harac, the man there in the lime green jersey, and he's in fact putting the hammer down pretty hard.
He has had one inspired day of riding today. He's done what Richard Virenque has done in the Tour de France in the past. He has conquered all of the mountains in first place. The Aspin, the Perosord, and there's another attack from Jimenez there. And Portillon, he's gone over the top 3. Now, here we have Cárdenas here now setting the pace. It's all too late. He might crack 1 or 2 riders at the tail of this elite bunch of riders, but there's no way now they're going to bridge 6 minutes and 38 seconds to those men up front.
Well, there was a counter-attack there, the blue jersey. That's Luis Perez. He was also a former leader of the King of the Mountains competition. If I was Félix Cárdenas right now, I'd just forget about it for today. He's probably going to lose the lead in the King of the Mountains jersey, but tomorrow is another day in the big mountains of the Pyrenees as we head across towards Andorra. Reaction there at the bottom. It looks as if it is Cárdenas trying to come across.
Yep.
Race situation right now. So the top left-hand corner, you've got Eladio Jimenez, who's the lone leader, has the advantage of having Aitor Oza in the group behind, so they won't chase. Virenque Martinez, they're around about 5 minutes behind, but at the front end of the main field, there's a certain acceleration coming. There is Luis Perez. This is Félix Cárdenas. But I think, Bob, the big contenders, they're just going to keep a very close eye on each other now.
And I believe that Carlos Sastre is up ahead of Luis Perez and Félix Cárdenas. That's a good little breakaway to be in. Here comes a Banesto rider. They've been very active today all over the front of the bike race. That might be Unai Osa, the brother of Aitor Osa, who's up the road, defending the chances right now of Eladio Jimenez, who is way up the mountain ahead of everybody at the moment. But it is all changed right now on the Vuelta a España, like we were saying before. It comes down not just to tactics, but also the strength that's left in the legs. A long breakaway, lots of mountain climbs. So it is anybody's ball game up at the top of the front of the bike race. You can absolutely not overbake your effort. You have to meter it out perfectly and do perfect timing. Jimenez seems to have the advantage right now.
Big effort then by Unai. Brother Aitor is still up in front of him and best placed in that breakaway to make the big ascension of the overall classification. Could halve his deficit if things work out. But the breakaway has now split up. It is Jimenez, Eladio Jimenez, who's setting the pace at the front. There's the 5 kilometre banner for the 2 leaders, as we're now seeing Rodriguez and Aitor Osa going for the win on the day. Osa, remember, is the best placed in what was a 9-man breakaway, and frankly is now spread right down this mountain. A chase group has wiped out Virenque and Castra and Martinez, and it's a very select group of 4 here. Second man there who came up at a tremendous speed is Rasmussen, the winner yesterday. Perez, Cárdenas and Unai Osa, and this is a very solid group. The last check we got, Paul, they were still 4 minutes back.
Yeah, but I think the man doing the great operation is the man in 4th position there, Félix Cárdenas, the leader of the King of the Mountains competition. And the effort that he's putting on there, I might have a feeling that he's going to catch Horac before the top of this climb. There, though, is the main field with all of the big leaders. And I tell you what, Once today have turned the books around completely. They are in complete control. There in 2nd position is Igor González de Galliano. Heras is in this group as well. In 3rd position there is Manuel Beltran. He's looking pretty comfortable, and I think maybe today he'll think about just taking a back seat for a while, because again we face up to a very difficult race tomorrow. Aitor Osa and Joaquim Rodriguez are 4:43 ahead of the chasers, and the chasers are still holding on to a 29-second advantage over the group of the leader. Let's not forget, Isidro Nozal is still leading this bike race. He's in that group as well.
Well, 2 leaders at 4:43. That's exactly the same. So the 6 riders behind are not 4 riders rather are not closing in on the leaders. But the golden jersey has closed down 6 seconds on those 4 riders. So they haven't given up yet. It is going to be a dual battle now all of the way to the summit. Now Cárdenas could save his King of the Mountains jersey here if he can pick off a few riders from that breakaway on the way up. It's quite a good battle now, Bob, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's a great battle. Horach knows that he needs to maintain a position probably in the top 5 and hope that Cárdenas doesn't start picking up riders that have been dropped. Already Lara has been dropped and shelled by this group, so Cárdenas is inching closer to some more points for the King of the Mountain, and he's really making a hard tempo in that little group with Luis Perez, Michael Rasmussen.
The most impressive man of the day, though, in fact these 2 days, is Michael Rasmussen, because the speed he came across to catch up with those leaders was superb.
Absolutely brilliant climbing, and it just goes to prove that there is a crossover, isn't there, between mountain bike racing and the top end of the sport of road racing, because I think the best example was Cadel Evans last year leading the Giro d'Italia. This year, this man Rasmussen has really saved the season, I feel, for Rabobank.
And don't forget the Once team as we go under the next banner here for the 2 leagues. That'll be 6 to go, or 4 kilometres to go. We've seen the 5, haven't we? Osa in the front is going for a higher place on GC. I suspect, though, that the Once rider Rodriguez, already the leader of this race for 2 days. Now, I must confess, Bob, I thought that would have been the last we'd seen of him. Got himself into a move today which has really kept the Once flag flying.
Well, he wasn't obliged to work it all throughout this very long breakaway of 9 riders from the very first climb of the day, way back in the Col d'Espagne. Because his team is still leading the bike race, he could just sit on the break. He countered the attack of Aitor Osa, and now he's just sitting on Osa. He is in a really good position to win the stage, and that would be a great result for Once. We'll have to see what happens. They are in really, really solid control of this bike race. Back down the mountain, that's Igor Gonzalez de Galeano on the wheel of his teammate from Once, and Isidro Nozal, incredibly, is still in this group, also hanging absolutely tough like a cat on a hot tin roof. He does not want to get shaken out of this group. He needs to conserve 55 seconds from the man just down the line there, Manuel Beltran, if he's going to keep this jersey for another day, and it wouldn't surprise me if he could do it. He looks to be quite comfortable right here in this group, about 10 riders back.
A couple of riders actually starting to warm up as the Vuelta continues. Is the man you can just see there in the white jersey, Aitor Gonzalez. He's looked very good over the last couple of days, and in fact I think he's moving up to pick up the pace because he's not too happy with the speed. Well,
this is a good move, and Gonzalez has become more prominent. We might see a very good second half to the Vuelta from the man who won it a year ago, and that would give him great confidence because he had a rather flat season.
And look at the man on his wheel, Roberto Heras in person. He's moved up. He could see the danger. This, as I said earlier, is the kind of climb that suits Aitor Gonzalez, and he really wants to try and put the hammer down, but I think he's seen that he's not going to get the gap right now, and they're going to relinquish the reins of control back to Team Once in the yellow jerseys.
Well, this is going to be the day that the second echelon of climbers have pulled one over on the stars of the Vuelta. There's no doubt about that. They went early, they've stayed away, and they're going to win the day. While the big men who are planning on a victory in Madrid in 2 weeks' time, 2 weeks and 1 day that is, they have watched each other today and they have struggled. Now, is that Oscar Sevilla there trying to bridge back up? Because he's had a real rough day, but this man has applied himself and will not give up. He's coming back, I think.
Well, he's trying to get himself back to this group here right now, but as they come around the corner, they're picking up the pace once again to accelerate as they come up to around about 7 kilometres to the finish. The leaders have gone through 4 kilometres to the finish, so certainly the victory on today's stage will either go to Aitor Osa or look at this. This is the man who won the Vuelta a España last year. He's got the power for this slightly easier incline, Bob.
It's an absolutely vicious acceleration. He's going to have to brake actually for this corner right here, right up on the camera motorcycle there, right in the midst of him. He attacked so hard that it was Roberto Heras barely able to respond, and he has absolutely detonated the Once train at the front. You can see Isidro Nozal trying desperately to close the gap. That was an incredible acceleration by Aitor Gonzalez, back on form after a really hard year so far, but he looked to be very strong on the previous climb, and now you can tell that he's really putting in some time. Roberto Heras there is just right on his wheel in perfect position, looking back to see what kind of damage they've done, and I think that they will see that they've done quite a bit of damage.
I think they hurt him there. That was Santos Gonzalez, also got on terms with them, but he's not going to go and help out just now. That's Jose Acevedo there slipping away, caught on the whip end of the attack there. A sensational move by Gonzalez, and I think that has indicated to us that this man is starting to feel like his old self again.
This is Beltran in difficulty as well. That was an unbelievable acceleration, and I think what I'd like to see is the position of the golden jersey. I think he's in that group just a little further up. Now this is a surprise because Beltran looked like a solid leader yesterday. There is the golden jersey. This is the man who led the bike race at the start of today, and everybody's being put under serious pressure, and it's going to be a very complicated overall classification to work out here this afternoon. There's Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano put on the defensive.
Well, two big names in trouble, but then so is Beltran. So the top three riders are now finding that other men are beginning now to take part. As we look at the mosaic here, with the two leaders in the top left-hand corner are 800 meters now from the line, and Osa has got himself into the back position. This man has tried to rip the main contenders apart. We briefly saw him there, but you can see the golden jersey has rejoined with a struggle, but not in this group is Manuel Beltran. So at the end of this day, Nozal could be doing himself a big favor. But first of all, credit where credit is due, because this is Rodriguez at the front. No doubt normally the better sprinter of the two, but I'm not sure now, because Aitor Osa has got the driving position as they approach the line. There's a slight downhill here as they come up to the line. Osa is going to wait till the last minute. He's the highest placed in the original breakaway, but still 16:32 behind. Rodriguez goes to try and finish it off for a great day for Once yet again here, but I'm not sure now, because Osa is going to have to try and give it his best shot. Rodriguez hasn't won a stage since Paris-Nice. Now he has this year, his second win of the year, and that keeps the Once flag flying.
Well, that was a great move by him. Tactically, he was in the strongest position, but seriously, this has been an unbelievable showdown on the slopes of this very difficult mountain. A 20-kilometer climb right now. This is the next group on the road. This is the group of Horac. Horac is in there with Zabaya, and on the right-hand side there is Joufre from Relax. He's done a great ride this afternoon.
But this could be the King of the Mountains jersey for Johan Horac here. It would be great if he could win the sprint for his own benefit. It would give him more points, but we'll see as he comes up towards the line now. As Zabaya has got the lead here, and he is a very good sprinter, and he's got the benefit of the bend. As he comes around the corner, I think he's taken it all too much out of them here. Joufre has also challenged on every mountaintop today, but not this one, as Zabaya just gets it on the line. Almost got pipped there by Joufre and Horac.
Well, Horac will get himself 12 points there, and I think that's enough to give him the lead in the overall classification. A little bit sketchy there. It looked as if this man was going to go the wrong way as well, because on the run up towards the finish, it's rather a shame to have a left-hand bend just before the finishing line.
So Unai Echeverria comes in. I make him in 6th place. So remember, there were 9 men away originally. I think the rest might have been swept up. As no, one rider is just about holding off here. This will be Lungi, and he will be 7th of the 9-man breakaway. I think the others will have been swept up. But Denny Lungi, he gets 7th place on the day.
The most important thing right now, though, is to see the time gaps that open up between all of the different groups. And in fact, one of the other survivors is coming through here as well, because this is Eladio Jimenez. He will hold on just for 8th place. So after that, we should see the arrival coming out of the slopes of this climb of the group containing Luis Perez, and of course the man who leads the overall King of the Mountains at the start of the day, and that was Félix Cárdenas.
Well, Cárdenas has got to be in the mix somewhere as they continue now to run into the line. This has been quite an amazing battle over the last few kilometers, as the stars of the tour so far have taken themselves on. Look at the time gaps. They don't mean anything as far as the destiny of the golden jersey goes today, because here he is in what is a very elite group. It looks as though while our cameras have been away, though, this group really has thinned down a little bit, Bob.
Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano tacked on at the back there. It's kind of odd to see Once's best man so far in this Vuelta a España doing all the tempo, but they have put some time in between themselves and Manuel Beltran, and so that's why you see Isidro Nozal really making a strong tempo, also to protect the interests of Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. In this group, also Aitor Gonzalez and Roberto Heras, but we haven't seen Manuel Beltran.
Well, there was only 26 seconds between Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano and Manuel Beltran at the start of the day, and I think we might see that gap actually being extended when we come up to the finish line. That would replace the Once riders in 1st and 2nd position. But once again, Isidro Nozal has turned out to be the most stunning domestique. Riders at the Tour de France like Victor Hugo Peña were criticized for wearing the leader's jersey and riding as a domestique for Lance Armstrong, but exactly exactly the same thing is happening here right now. Isidro Nozal doesn't believe that he can win this race overall. This is the sprint now, Phil, for 8th place coming up, and round the corner there, Rasmussen.
Yesterday's winner still putting in a tremendous ride here, Michael Rasmussen. He had the best legs to catch this group, and he comes to line easily. He takes the 9th place finish, I think it is, as they cross the line now. And here comes the golden jersey. Not a big gain. None of the men in front worrying him at all, and he's actually gaining time over his nearest rival Beltran on the day. He's turned yet another day around his way. This man is becoming quite a remarkable bike rider. Even wins the sprint.
He even wins the sprint, and he still does not believe in himself. He still thinks that the man who's going to win the race for them is Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. Here is Beltran right now coming up. He has 26 seconds if he wants to keep himself in second place in the overall classification. And I'm rather surprised to see after his performance yesterday that he was put into difficulty today on what is a slightly easier finishing climb.
Well, he's got about 5 seconds now to get to the line, if that calculation proves correct, and it looks to me as though he might well have lost that place now to Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. It's ticked by just a few seconds. He's fought, he's failed, and he goes down to 3rd place overall. But of course, tomorrow is another vicious day in the mountains. It just shows you how the legs are variable on this final climb today. Some great form by some riders and questionable form by others. There's the result confirmed. Same time for Osa. Then came Constantino Zabaya, 51 seconds. All of these rides, of course, part of virtually the race-long breakaway. Johan Horak there taking the 5th place at 54 seconds, enough to give him the lead in the King of the Mountains competition. Rasmussen getting across to the chase group, riding very well, gaining a few seconds over the race leader, Isidro Nozal. Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano, they all finished in the same group with Roberto Heras, and a very, very good Aitor Gonzalez today, who came over the line in 17th place at 3 minutes 51. But this man did lose time, Manuel Beltran. He's now a little bit further back. It's cost him his 2nd place overall, at least for the moment. That last sprint up the mountain proving just 1 sprint too far for him. But I think he's much better on the longer climbs, and he should recover that. In the King of the Mountains competition, our first change in any competition for a few days now, Johan Horash has got just 1 point to the good over Félix Cárdenas of the La Barca team. Aitor Osa also coming in now to 3rd place, and Luis Perez, who in the opening days of this race was the King of the Mountains leader. And Joufre there had a wonderful day as well, scoring regularly on the tops of the mountains. In the Pacific Life general classification, 5 days in the golden jersey now for Nozal. 1:21. A familiar scene this over his on-site teammate Gonzalez de Galdeano. Beltran slipping back by only a few seconds into 3rd. Frigo holding at the same time gap he had this morning, 3:07, and the same for Roberto Heras at 3:18. He is now in 5th place. I think we can look a bit further down. There we are, Francisco Mancebo. None of these riders gaining any time today. Aitor Gonzalez at 4 minutes. Alejandro Valverde is in 8th place. Michael Rasmussen gained a few seconds by that late escape, and he's at 4:04 now, and Unai Osa also creeping in to the top 10 at 4:14. These guys all enjoying the tour at the moment, and tomorrow could do exceptionally well. Yes, today the Vuelta España goes out on stage 9. We start the 2nd full week of racing, 174.8 kilometers, and a lot of that terrain is in the Principality of Andorra. So today then, the 3rd day in the northern parts of the mountains before we go south, the Pyrenees, and today we go from Vielho into Andorra, and we've never actually finished a stage on top of the Envalira before. We've been over the top of it in previous visits into Andorra. Today we are stopping right on the summit. It is a tough 3rd and final day here, and there has been attacks all day, as we'll see very, very shortly. 174.8 kilometers or 108.6 miles. There are the 3 climbs for you. We've been over the top of the Benegua and the Del Canto, and we're actually running away from the Port del Canto at the moment. As we look now at the pictures coming in from Spain, this is the peloton. The clock is counting on a group of 5 riders in the lead. Gorka Gonzalez, David Navas, Garcia Garcia da Costa, I beg your pardon, Yeka and Ferrio. Those are the leaders, the remnants of a breakaway that was at one time 10. And good news for Félix Cárdenas, because he has won both of the climbs so far, which means that he has got his lead back in the King of the Mountains competition for the time being at least. They're just coming into the intermediate sprint here at Adral, leaving them 55 kilometers to race, and the peloton there closing in rapidly now. I think we're going to see a different type of race than that of yesterday. 3 riders eliminated yesterday, leaving 175 of the 198 still in, and of the 22 teams now, 10 of them are still intact with all 9 starters, and that's quite a lot as we go into our second week. Now let's just bring you up to date with the climbs on the Port de la Banegua. The first category climb after 22 kilometers. Cárdenas very quickly in the action, leading a breakaway over the top of that, beating Aitor Osa to the all-important points, and immediately going back into the lead in the King of the Mountains competition. On the second climb after 95 kilometers, the Port del Canto, Cárdenas still at the front. Slight changes at the riders around him, but Osa was still there. David Echeprier joined them just in time for third place finish, and Fabien Yecker also there. So in the overall situation, 1 climb to come for today. Cárdenas 122 points, well clear of Osa, while Heras has dropped back into third place. He was up amongst the leaders, but he fell back into the main pack, and he didn't score. He scored about 4 points all day, I think it is. We're looking at the main field, what's left of them now, with about 9 kilometers to climb, at least for the 2 leaders, who are still holding off the chase from Cárdenas, Osa, Laiseca and Valverde, while the peloton are 67 seconds behind the 2 leaders. But you get that feeling, Bob, you can almost put a knife through the electric atmosphere here. It's soon going to explode.
I think the attacks are going to start to come fast and furious from the peloton. Here's the 4 riders chasing the 2 in the front. Jürgen van Gulen is absolutely tormenting Leonardo Piepoli. There's Beltran putting in the first attack now with Roberto Heras right on his wheel. I think now the game is on. You can see Luis Perez up there as well for the Cofidis team.
Luis Perez wearing that blue jersey of the Regularity riders today. But this is the start now. I think gloves are off, and the best man will survive to the top.
Roberto Heras has asked his teammate to go forward on the left-hand side in the blue jersey. Leading the combine classification is Luis Perez, and the man of the mountains, Roberto Laiseca, has popped off that group. A lot of that because of the pacemaking done by Cárdenas, and the revelation, I would have to say, of this year, Alejandro Valverde, there in the middle in the lime green shorts of Kelme, because this kid has won 5 races so far this year, and he's not scared of reputations. Neither is this man too. One of the big transfers of this season, Luis Perez, moved across from Team Coast, now rides for Team Cofidis. I'd like to just see round the back of him and see just exactly where Roberto Heras is. I would think he is just in the shadows of the man riding for the top French team, and there he is.
There he is now, the golden jersey. That's Marcuson. Here comes the golden jersey. He's trying to put to rights the sudden acceleration by Luis Perez. Perez actually saying to Heras, come on up and give me a hand, but no go. I think Heras is waiting, or is he? He's seen that the golden jersey is on. He's latched on.
I tell you, Bob, that is not much fun, is it? When you're on the rivet and the bloke in front just moves his arms to say, come on, help, we can work out together. And you think, well, just give me a little bit more breathing space, please. And that's just exactly, I think, what happened to Roberto Heras there, but the damage has been done here. This is unbelievable. Isidro Nozal, well, I think Once is certainly going to have to rethink their tactics here this afternoon, because Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano is not able to respond to these accelerations. And this young man, not yet 26 years of age, he's reporting present every time the yellow jersey is put under attack.
Nozal is riding fabulously. Here comes another attack from Michael Rasmussen this time. And Nozal, look at that. He's trying to match this acceleration. He needs some help from a teammate to make a steadier tempo, not have to accelerate like that when the other riders in the top 10 attack. Luis Perez will take his turn in a moment, I fear, as well as Roberto Heras. They're just about to catch the 4 riders just in front of them who are still chasing Van Gulen and Piepoli from the Banesto team.
Looking over his shoulder there, Luis Perez wants to see just exactly how Nozal is responding to this, and it may well be that he needs a certain amount of experience right now. He needs to stay calm and collected, because if he keeps trying to respond to these consistent accelerations by the climbers, he's going to be put into a spitter's bother. And here you can see now Roberto Heras has felt the right moment. He wants to attack now. Looking back there, he looks over his shoulder. Where is the golden jersey? He's pulling himself back. In the sport, we say this guy is pulling himself inside out to keep the golden jersey on his shoulders.
Michele Scarponi doing a good ride to get on. I expected to see his teammate Santos Gonzalez to come over here, but not so. 2 big men missing, Gonzalez de Galdiano and of course last year's winner who seem to be coming into form. Aitor Gonzalez. They really are battering now the golden jersey, but he is answering everything they throw at him. And you know, the big dark horse of this race now, Paul, has got to be Rasmussen, because this rider is so confident now. And you know, foreign riders don't win the Vuelta very often. The last one was Jan Ullrich in '99, and about 26 out of all of the 57 we've had have been won by Spanish riders. It could be a big surprise coming at the end of this tour.
The only negative thing I can find about Rasmussen is the fact that his time trialing ability is not so good. He lost an awful lot of time in the 42-kilometer time trial just the other day. You cannot say anything negative about his climbing ability or his confidence. That's for absolute certain. But the race is very far from over. There's still an awful lot of climbing left to go. We're now just coming inside of 8 kilometers to go to the summit, and it looks as if there's a bit of a recover there. And in fact, I think that was the 7-kilometer banner right now, and you can see Aitor Gonzalez on the front of that group, and he's just trying to pull all this race back together. But there are going to be a lot more attacks before we get to the summit of the Port d'Envalira.
I think that was a big initial attack, Bob. I think it might come back together this time. That's the end of Le Sacco, though. He's just gone off the back of the Gonzalez de Galdeano group. There's Pereiro, and there is Gonzalez de Galdeano. Is still not driving, but the man he's still on the front. Look, Aitor Gonzalez, last year's winner, but he doesn't seem to have the top end acceleration.
Well, he climbs on power, on sheer force, as does his teammate there, number 3. You can see Dario Frigo. Watch out for him, because he's also a dark horse. There's 53 kilometers of individual time trialing. Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano riding with experience. He knows, as a slightly older rider, not a very pure climber, he cannot respond to these accelerations of men like Roberto Heras. He allows them to go clear at an acceleration of 32 kilometers an hour on a climb like this, and then he slowly but surely pulls himself back. I tell you what, though, Frigo is looking rather good. And there's the golden jersey. He must have popped.
Well, he came back to do it. I thought we'd gone to the wrong group. They're all back, because there's Rasmussen as well. I think they must have gone back on when they sat down. No, they all got back together. We've still got these two. Let's not forget, these two men have been the heroes of this climb so far, Piepoli and Van Geulen. The main pack not too interested in them. They might just come back as a matter of volition.
And there's Cárdenas going forward again. It was Aitor Gonzalez that made the acceleration to bring the little breakaway with Heras and Rasmussen back. Now they've come back together. Here's Unai Ossa, Valverde, and Cárdenas. Maybe they have been just in front of the peloton there, and they're closing the gap there to the riders just ahead of them. This is going to be 5 now in the front of the bike race. That's Piepoli and Van Geulen just in front of the 3 chasers, led by Félix Cárdenas, the Colombian climber on the La Barca team, who is now in the King of the Mountain jersey when he gets to the top of this mountain.
So at 6 kilometers to go, we're going to have 5 leaders. Félix Cárdenas has been advertising all day that he wants to win this stage, and he's been playing his cards to effect ever since these last climbs started. There's the leading group now: Unai Ossa, Leonardo Piepoli, Alejandro Valverde, Félix Cárdenas, and Jürgen Van Geulen.
Well, there was a big acceleration from this group from Aitor Gonzalez. You can see him in the white and blue jersey of Fossa Bortolo. Softened the legs up a little bit. Isidro Nozal looking back to see what happened to his team captain, Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano, who has been dropped. Now he's taken over the pacemaking. They too have 4 kilometers to go. Only 17 seconds. That acceleration went down. 10 seconds in just 1 kilometer. And it looks like the riders in the front are trying to counter the attacks by the 2 Banesto riders, Piepoli and Unai Ossa. Valverde is up there along with the other very solid climbers. Luis Perez, he's right there in the blue jersey on the Cofidis team, but Isidro Nozal is doing a great ride. This is De Galdeano.
And he's detached.
Getting dropped with Beltran there.
Beltran and Pereiro. So this is really serious news now. Onsea down to 1 man, possibly now, who can win this tour. And he's been the man who's been trying to lose his lead in favour of Gonzalez de Galdeano for the last 2 days.
I think, Phil, they're really going to regret having spent a lot of energy working for Gonzalez de Galdeano, because Nozal is turning out to be a very solid leader. So too is Unai Ossa. He's attacked about 15 times over the last few kilometers. He's going absolutely ballistic. Always there being marked by Cárdenas in the yellow jersey, and of course Alejandro Valverde in the lime green jersey of the Kelme squad. A little bit of slowing down, top right hand corner there. You can see Roberto Heras. They're looking over their shoulders to see what is happening to Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. He's in the bottom left there with Manuel Beltran just sitting on his wheel. You have to use all of his experience right now to make sure he doesn't lose too much time. But the man closest to him in the overall classification, Manuel Beltran, is right there on his wheel, playing the defending role for US Postal this afternoon, because their team leader, Roberto Heras, is just slightly off the front group.
Well, there's the attack from Rasmussen. He's waited till he's seen them all look at one another. A terrific acceleration from the right-hand side, while we've got the breakaway on the front left of our pictures. Now, as Gonzalez de Galdiano just about hooks on along with Beltran, there's been an attack by Rasmussen. Now it's Piepoli who's having a go at the front. They are throwing everything into this race now because they know that chase group is coming back from 26 seconds back to 17 seconds now. They're slowly, and somebody's gone the back of Rasmussen's there. Rasmussen has crossed the gap and is in sight now of a second win in 3 days.
That was an incredible jump by Rasmussen. Nozal couldn't do anything about it. He had to let him go up the road. Time. He has 15 seconds now on Rasmussen. I think he's trying to call his callback button to ask Manolo Sáenz what to do. He'll look, see Gonzalez de Galdiano is back in there unless he's been dropped again by that wicked acceleration by Michael Rasmussen, who with 3 kilometers to go is now right up with our leaders. They were only 17 seconds behind, but he closed that gap in about 200 meters, and he's going again right now.
As our cameras are cut back to check out what Heras is doing here, I'm not absolutely unconvinced that in fact Nozal has got a stomach problem here, because we've seen him hold his stomach a lot of times on this climb, but he is certainly having to dig very, very deep, and he won't give up. Tremendous amount of courage he's got.
Oh, there's a crash. Somebody's come down there, and it looked as if it was Aitor Gonzalez had a problem, just gone down there. And also another rider here from the...
it's Zemo del Olmo who's gone down there, Paul. I don't know if there's another rider off to the right, possibly.
Well, the other rider that stopped with him was Aitor Gonzalez, and they've seen that right now. Roberto Heras kicking up the pace. Isidro Nozal, well, let's have a look at it from the back here. This is a replay of just exactly what happened. It was Gonzalez went down there with Del Olmo, but it's caused a bit of confusion in the group. On the defense is doing a superb ride, Isidro Nozal, but this man is certainly a star for the future, and if he can just put a couple of good individual time trials in, Rasmussen has got a great possibility of moving himself up into the top 5 in the overall classification, but it is all coming back together.
Heras is just integrated with the front group now. He's going to go right straight past him, try to attack. He's going to be countered by Félix Cárdenas. He is riding a great race, Cárdenas. His team set up this climb, and Cárdenas there in the yellow jersey on the left-hand side of the group is able to match all the accelerations by both Monesto riders. Now we have 4, 5, 8, 10 guys in the front of the bike race.
Dario Frigo is in that group as well, so he was not caught up at all with those problems at the back end of the group, but one man who was Aitor Gonzalez, but I have a feeling Gonzalez is coming back now.
There he is. This is amazing. These boys clearly are virtually equal on form and condition right now. They make their moves, and I'm just wondering if Aitor is going to have a far right jump here, and I think he is. He is now built up. They'll have only just seen him. Cárdenas is so observant. He is desperate for this victory today, and he's still got the legs there. He's now chasing last year's winner, Aitor Gonzalez.
Chase taken up there by Rasmussen as well. He wants to try and get himself this stage if he can to make it number 2 for Rabobank. He's climbing well up in the overall classification. That was an ideal move by Aitor Gonzalez. Just come to the back of the group. Everybody was waiting to try and catch their breath for just a few moments and hit them nice and hard. But I tell you what, nobody's going to outfox Félix Cárdenas this afternoon, because he is looking for the win. And I wonder where Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano is, because I think he's in difficulty again, dragging himself back into this race.
Bob, we're seeing here a huge group of riders, the third day in the mountains, still locked together here. There's no decisions being made.
Just a couple of kilometers to go now, and Isidro Nozal has ridden the race of his life to contain all of these attacks. Time is running out for anybody else that wants to win the Vuelta a España. They have to start hitting him hard now. You can see him right there up against the fence in the golden jersey. He has countered all the great accelerations from Heras, from Rasmussen, from Cárdenas, from Piepoli and Unai Osa and Luis Perez, and he's still right there defending that golden jersey. What an incredible ride he's doing. And De Galdiano there just behind. You can see him desperately trying to get back across, but all hats off to Isidro Nozal. What a great effort he's put in on the slopes of the Envalida climb, and it doesn't look like Once is going to lose the Vuelta on this stage today.
Well, it looks like they're going to keep hold of the lead, because they are doing an absolutely superb job. But let's not regard the Vuelta as being completely over, as it looks like Aitor Gonzalez is having another go, hitting them hard again at the front end of this bike race. We are, after all, only on stage 9 as Rasmussen decides to take up, covered there by Perez. This is an unbelievable move. And as you said, Phil, everybody seems to be roughly around about the same form and the same fitness, because nobody can really break the stranglehold of this group.
It's not often you see a group as big as this coming to the top of a mountain top finish, but at this time of the year, you don't know how the body plays tricks. Aitor Gonzalez is beginning to show form. Rasmussen is beginning to say, I'm going to be among the favourites to win this race after what we've seen today. And watch out for Félix Cárdenas. He could be another outsider who's going to fight his way into this race.
Also watch out for Pipoli. Those two riders are the furthest down in the overall classification. And if one of those hits them hard, Pipoli or Cárdenas, they're not very likely to take up the pacemaking, because I think with around about a kilometre or so to go, we will get a chance to see. There's somebody else is waiting to go for the move. It's very steep in the corner. They get a chance to look over there and see where González de Galdeano is. Still only 10 seconds off.
The Belgian flag there flying right on the faces when they came round that bend. That might deter them, or it may not, of course. Here he goes again, number 102, Félix Cárdenas. I think if anybody's advertised the right to win to today's stage, it is Félix Cárdenas. He's gone again. Pipoli is coming back alongside him, and look at the speed he's going at.
Well, this man was actually sitting on the first breakaway on Van Geulen's wheel. He had a very good chance of trying to keep himself in with the action. These two riders are the least dangerous in the overall classification right now. Pipoli is 32nd overall at the start of today. And again, it's Rasmussen taking up the pacemaker. He's not scared of anybody here this afternoon. And there's a big acceleration coming. Roberto Heras seems to have lost the wheel slightly.
We're watching the dizzy heights now as we come up towards the top of the Envalira. It kicks up now towards the finish, and these riders, they come and they go. The elastic stretches, it doesn't snap. Riders fight the way back up when we know there's a big crowd waiting at the top here now. Félix Cárdenas, Bob, has still got himself in the right place.
Well, when the group hesitates behind as Lee stretches out, the wind is also wreaking havoc. Riders all the way across. You can see how windy it is by the red flag there. It's right in the face of the riders now. At this moment, you have to calculate perfectly. Mancebo from Banesto back in the front group. And here goes Cárdenas again, kicking. Pipoli doesn't seem to be able to. He's getting right back on the wheel.
I think Pipoli's going to win this.
Watch out, there is Unai Osa coming up through the confusion there as well, the teammate of Pipoli. And these guys now, I think they're just watching each other just to see what's going to happen. But there are now 3 riders at the front of the race, 2 of them from ibanesto.com.
A perfect combination. Leonardo Pipoli, judging by his acceleration to catch Cárdenas, he's feeling very, very good. It's 2-1 now, and poor old Félix here is facing 2 Banesto riders to take him on, and that might be his undoing on what so far has been a perfect day, because he's returned to the top of the leaderboard in the King of the Mountains competition. Unai Osa been so close to winning stages this week, and watch out, because here comes more trouble, and this is Alessandro Valverde, and I think he's preparing for an early attack here. He's checking over his shoulder because he has the most to gain of this little group, and he's going to wait as long as he can.
23 years of age, a superb revelation this season. He's leapt across the gap. He's waited to leave all of the top contenders for the overall classification watch each other. It's Rasmussen on the top of that group. They're trying to pull them all back inside of the last kilometre. And once again, Aitor González, number 1, last year's winner. He wants to win as well if he can.
Aitor González trying to reach them now if he can. What an incredible battle this is, and it's not going to decide anything here as Aitor grinds them back up alongside each other. And I would watch out now for Rasmussen, who kicks out of the saddle to hold Aitor. I think he smells blood again, that man from Denmark, the mountain bike king of 1999, as they swing around the corner now, heading into the closing few hundred meters to the line. It is going to be a sprinter's finish on top of the mountain. Cárdenas forced onto the lead now, looking over his shoulder. Valverde is the rider in green, but really it's going to be a sprint here, and the man who can turn out the best sprint is going to take the stage as the attack has started on the right now. This looks like Santos is going now as they start to go. González, Frigo, he's the big danger now. Here he comes on the outside, and this is the man who's been riding a real dark horse race, but now putting himself in with a terrific chance of winning this. Cárdenas refuses to give up. This is almost a slow motion grind to the summit, and I think Dario Frigo is going to win, or is it going to be Valverde? Valverde gets it on the line. He gets valuable time too, a couple of seconds. Frigo is second, and third is Osa, fourth Pipoli. That's and Nozal is in there as well. He's got a little bit of time gain on Roberto Heras, and I think we'll find he's got even more on Beltran and indeed González de Galdeano. So this has worked out really a great day for the golden jersey, because here are his nearest rivals and they're both losing time as well. He's actually increased his overall lead.
Well, Phil, every day we expected this man to lose since the individual time trial, and he's stayed at the top of the lead, and he's looking every day like a much stronger contender to try and win this bike race overall.
Alessandro Valverde, there he is circled, and this is how he won. He was on the back wheel there of Dario Frigo, and I have to say I thought Frigo had done it well here, but his legs just weren't fast enough because they actually timed this separately by a second clear victory, and so they should have done too, for Alessandro Valverde, and that was his 6th win of the season. So he gets victory over Frigo by a second. Bit of a dark horse, Dario Frigo, this year. Unai Osa in 3rd. Leonardo Pipoli riding so well to hold on for 4th, and Francisco Mancebo getting 5th. In the end, Cárdenas dropping away to 6th place for him. Nozal, a brilliant 7th place, only 6 seconds off the leader there. Scarponi, Aito Gonzalez and Michael Rasmussen. Of some notable others, Luis Perez 11th, Heras conceding 13 seconds to the winner, and he's finishing 12th, and Galdiano and Beltran are both losing half a minute in that last couple of kilometres up to the line. So kisses all round, 6th win of the year. He's a young 23-year-old in his 2nd season, and now he's suddenly found his winning ways. All of his wins coming this season, and without doubt, this is his best finish of any bike race since he turned pro. He must have felt pretty good saluting the crowd here. And a big danger now, because he's moved up as well in the overall classification, as we can see now with the Pacific Life overall standings. Isidro Nozal, 6 days now in the lead, 1:45. He increased his lead over Galdiano, 1:58 over Beltran. He gains on him. Dario Frigo pulls a little bit back at 3:02, and Heras in 5th place there. A little bit further down, Valverde comes up 1 place. He gets over the top of Aito Gonzalez, moves up to 7th. Rasmussen stays locked in 9th for the moment, riding so well. And Unai Osa is completing there the top 10. Now, after the race finished, we heard the news that Richard Virenque was disqualified for holding on to car in the mountain, and as a result of that is out of the race, and the field is now down to 170 riders.